Good morning. Well, do we still call it morning at this time? Is it afternoon now, G? What do you say at 12 o'clock? Is it afternoon?
Well, it's one minute past, so that's definitely into the afternoon.
All right. Okay.
Friday
Good
afternoon.
after Friday afternoon. Yeah. Welcome to another LinkedIn Live with myself, Lee Horton, and the uber talented Gary Nightingale Creative. I mean, I always feel like that is your full name, G. Gary Nightingale Creative. That's how I refer to you as now. Maybe that should happen. Maybe you should hyphenate your surname.
I could do, yeah, yeah. Me and the business, it's all one thing.
That's it. It is. It is. Yeah. You are who
Yeah.
you are, and amazing, amazing. How's your week been?
It's been good, yeah. It's interesting because a while ago I used to be Gary Nightingale Business Illustration, which was a nightmare on, well, the domain name. It was just,
Yeah.
and it was too restrictive. And I just thought, it's just creative to me is so wide and so broad of what it can mean. You know, it's just, you go for a walk down a high street, everything around you was done because of creativity. And so that's,
Yeah.
I just wanted
No,
it
I
to
love
be all
that.
encompassing.
I love that, and maybe we can talk a little bit more about you, what you do, and how you do it as the conversation develops as well. Because I think that would be really good. Because over the last 3 weeks, we have spoke about something that you have created and I have created in terms of big picture, big insights, 5,000 voices,
Yeah,
10 UK organisations on what helps hinders people, businesses, teams in achievement of the company vision. And then this week we wanted to continue talking to each other, but maybe just break down one of the themes and just see
yeah.
where the conversation goes. So this one is people and teams. Which comes first? But before we go into that, what are your initial thoughts, G? What are you thinking?
Well, I thought because when we did that first live, just for anyone who doesn't know, we got this offering of this joint resource, which is the insights document and the image that accompanies it. And initially, we were going to talk about it on one live, and it became clear towards the end, we don't have anywhere near enough time to talk about everything that we want to talk about. So we covered everything that people want to lose in the first one, everything that they want to keep in the second, and everything that they want to have in the third. And then we thought, only a top level. We still need to drill down into each of those things because, with the work that we've done, we identified all those different themes. But well, let's
Yep.
pick a theme at a time and just explore that as well. So, people and teams is just the first one, and that, people have been writing about that forever. And I think I like your the way you framed it as like which is first, people or teams. I think that would be interesting to talk about.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, like, which does come first for you, people or teams?
I've thought about that all week, and I thought I wish you hadn't asked that. Just contradicting myself. But I think there's something you talk about of having a strong sense of direction that a team needs, all pulling in the same direction. Um, but it's each individual team that brings that to life.
Mm.
That that engagement, I suppose, and so it's perhaps for the team, it's the sense of direction, but to actually get there, perhaps it's about each individual within the team.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, because it is a trick, not maybe a trick question is not the right word, but it is because you need to factor both things, don't you? That
Yeah,
people are individuals. As like I think I put a post on LinkedIn the other week that said I don't disagree with there's no I in team. I mean, I disagree with there's no I in team because the team is made up of all individuals, and we need to appreciate and understand all the different perspectives, experiences, backgrounds, thoughts, ideas, um, and differences. within a team, and we need to appreciate and create a safe space for everybody's differences. But absolutely, what you said there about having clarity of direction is key, because you can only really surface all of the differences if in a safe way, if you all want to achieve the same destination or get to the same place. Um, if not, then it can be less safe to do so. Like I always on a course or a number of courses, I always ask people, I'll go failure, problems, challenge, conflict. Are those what do you think of those words? And typically everybody says those are negative words. But I believe that they're the most positive words, but they're only positive if you've all got the same destination, because it's just a difference of opinion in achieving that. It's things in your way in achievement of that. So yeah. So what comes first? Do you need a direction? Do you need a go? I think, uh, yeah. There's got to be a place that you. There's got to be a reason for the group of people coming together, I think.
Yeah, and in the sessions that I've been part of, where I'm people talking conversations that they're having, so that I can interpret it, and when I've been to visit clients, the what I've found is that when that sense of purpose is really clear, everyone knows what it is. But when you really start digging and giving people the opportunity to talk and to really open up and voice their concerns, and all those things that you've said can be perceived as negative, but in the place where I've been seeing it happening, it's been in a positive environment to what we say. The the interpretations of a vision, of a sense of direction, no matter how simply it might be written, those interpretations can vary so widely, because they're dependent on so many things. People are infinitely complex. So one person looking at just a one-line mission, that line, like as you've written about, it goes through all their filters of their experience, where they are now, you know, and so that's why it's important to say that this is our sense of direction, but what does that mean to each of you?
Yeah, and I think that's how you help beautifully create that, because like you've said, that words mean different things to different people. Words are just labels for things that we've learnt through our experiences, our education, our conditioning, our upbringing, and then we cross our fingers and we hope that the words that we are saying, everybody is hearing them with the intent that we've meant when we're saying it. And that's the danger in just having a written vision statement, without doing the things like you're saying here, making it real to people, making them help people understand what it means, what does it look like, feel like, and sound like, um, to achieve it, and what does it mean to each individual person. And if we just talk about Gary Nightingale Creative, um, that is how you help people, or one of the ways that you help people. You make it real. It's words, pictures, and emotions, and you help people feel stuff with the pictures. But the starting point is typically the words first. I don't know if there's anything you want to share, talk about.
Yeah, I think
In
I, I was reading something earlier today before my last call, before this one, which kind of echoes something that I've heard you talking about, that people protect what they build. I think it was that exact line, and about ownership. And so, if if you're presenting someone with a vision, with a mission, what's their connection with that? And but if uh, if people can then come to a point where they agree on what that means to them, or they've rebuilt the vision themselves, then they're invested in it.
mm,
And so, I mean, I think, where I'm coming from is that I don't do the coaching, I don't do the facilitating. Where I am, it's like I'm an observer. I'm taking part in it or from an observation point of view, and just so you know, I hear everything that's said. I get all the kind of feedback, all the notes and everything, and my job is like observation, interpretation, and then communication. So I take everything that I hear from these sessions, from meeting people, interpret it, create like metaphors that depict these things, and then give them back to people, show them back to people, and that's all about that communication, which itself is not an end in itself. It's about that engagement and just trying to really dig down into that level of engagement, which kind of leads on to when I first started getting into all this stuff, you know, and I started seeing that figure that's bandied around, you know, 70% of change programs don't meet their intended outcomes. And I looked at, you know, what's the flip side of that? Well, it's 30%, obviously. And so much of the research and studies that has gone into it kind of bears that out. You see figures like 67%, or, you know, 26% of executives said that they felt that it had. It's just like 70%. That's a big number. What's in there? What makes that up? You know, and so from what I've kind of read and listened to, it just seemed to be that it was where things fell down was always at that connection point, you know, which I know you talk about, the connection from the start, people getting involved, people thinking that big tech changes are going to change human behavior, you know, and they're not. It's so regardless of what change is being done, it always has to be that. So I suppose what I do is helping dig the foundation for whatever change might be happening. You know, it's just it's not the whole answer, it's a part of the answer. I can be a part of the answer of getting that foundation in place so that the rest is can be and I've seen that working, you know, and I suppose because of the sessions I've been in on, they're probably from the 30%, because if they weren't, I don't know, I guess they wouldn't want an artist sitting in listening to what's going on and drawing it. So I kind of I've been in a privileged position of seeing this really working, where people are really listened to, where people are really valued, where people have difficult conversations and there's no fallout, you know, the sky doesn't fall in, people just listen, and it's like, oh, it was okay for me to say that. I've got more to say now, you know. I've been working. Obviously, I haven't sitting on the ones where it isn't working. But just read about them. Sometimes in the news.
Yeah, no, that's right. That's right. There's plenty of stories in there, because it is a vast number. And I just want to pick up on what you were just saying there about the foundation and connection. And because if we think back to the title of what we're talking about today, people are teams, what comes first, and we need people to be connected to each other, and we need people to be connected to the destination. And I think that is what it is all about. So do people come first, or the teams come first? Well, you can't have a team without people, but you can have people without a team. And so I think so people have absolutely got to come first. But when you've got those people, you have to connect them to the destination. You've got to connect them to everybody viewing where we are today. So where are we starting from, and where are we trying to get to? And everybody needs to have a similar level of understanding of where are we today, and that this is where you've got to bring out everybody's understanding and views and perspectives of today's situation, and then you've got to understand and get everybody connected into the destination. So what does it look like, feel like, and sound like? And then you can go on this journey together, because you're all agreeing where we are. It's like if we were to go on holiday together, we would need to understand where we were starting from, and then we would also then need to understand where we were going, or else we would be on two completely separate holidays. In fact, if we were to go on holiday together, where would you want to go?
I'd like to go to Paris again. 2 years ago. I would like to do that again, or somewhere in the States. I don't know. As
Oh,
long as we
no,
don't
very
go from
nice.
Heathrow.
Yeah, yeah, dead right, dead right. So yeah, so maybe one Friday we
How
do
about
it
you?
from well, I just think anywhere with you, G. I think it's the company that matters, not
You're
the
too kind.
destination for me.
Ne-
Yeah,
Next live we do, I'll get myself a background.
yeah. Or maybe we just do it from a European city. Maybe we should do a crowdfunding campaign to do one of these lives from a European city. Um, maybe we should do that. Maybe we should
Yeah,
do
they
that.
tend people tend to give to a little bit more worthy causes than will you pay for Lee and Gary's holiday so they can do a LinkedIn live from somewhere sunny and hot.
Yeah, well, if you don't ask, you don't get, do you? So maybe we should ask. Maybe we should ask. So just on back on this around, and I think it really ties in with how you help build the connection because you take the words, the emotions, the stories, of how people articulate the current situation and the destination, and you build create a beautiful image that everybody can see their input to it, they can see their contribution, but they can see the starting point, and it makes it real for everybody. And then that for me is really the key. Everybody has got to be connected to where we are today, where we want to get to, and then you can go on this journey together.
And I think what helps with that as well, which I've seen you do and someone else who I work with as well who does coaching, is to be challenging. Is you know you're in the conversation, but you're to one side of it, and you're listening, and always alert to what people agreed that they want to talk about, and if it strays away from that, you can kind of gently nudge them back into it, and to challenge when people when someone says something, you can stop, and you can stop the conversation and say, what did you mean by that, or I noticed that. And I think that is a really valuable tool for people, to make people question. It makes people question their own thinking in a good way, and which I think is, from what I've seen, is especially important in establishing where people are, because that's surprisingly difficult to have a room full of people and they can all think that they're starting in a different place.
Yeah, no,
And
absolutely.
you can't get where you're going until you agree that you're all on the same bus.
Yeah,
That where we are now, and that can be difficult to do. There can be all kinds of things involved, politics and hierarchies and egos, and you I think I'm starting here. Someone else thinks I'm starting here. We're really starting here, and we're not going to get anywhere until we know we're starting here. And that can be challenging and difficult. So to be able to create an environment where people are open to seeing that's a real skill.
I think what you just said there as well is the challenging part is really important because what a lot of teams and organizations do is they'll agree we're starting here, but it'll be so I guess generic or non-specific that everybody can kind of resonate and go, yeah, we're starting here, but it's not doesn't mean anything to them on an emotional level. Like you need to peel it away and get to a place of what it actually looks like, feels like, and sounds like at a human level, as opposed to, I guess, just a generic, vague sentence or statement, which I think is really important.
Yeah, and because it's down to perception really. Like I had like one specific example of it, an organisation I was working in, that loads of different teams that I did work with, and there were two teams in particular where their view of each other was the same, where it was they've got it better than us, they've got it easier than us, they're treated better than us, their facilities are maintained better than ours, and they were both thinking about that about each other. you know
Yeah,
so they can't both be right. there's a there's a perception there, and again, like we talk about that everything is connected, that is linked with siloed thinking and a unhealthy competitiveness that would be much better off and much more efficient with a collaborative mindset because they're in the same organization, you know. So the organization's overall goals depend on both these teams pushing towards them, not pushing against each other, which is taking a lot of energy and a lot of resources. And it was just really fascinating to have that kind of, it's almost like I'm in a drone looking out over them as they're all telling me all these different things. And there were other examples of that, but that was the most stark, you know, this this is how they're treated, and then go over here, this is how they're treated, you know.
Yeah.
And yet they, what was similar was that they both wanted, when you looked at what they wanted to have and where they wanted to get to, they were the same. You know, so how much could have been, and I don't know if this was done, but how much could have been achieved by getting those two teams in the same room?
Yeah.
And then locking the doors.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And
You know, it's like
yeah.
what, you know, it would just been and that would have been a really challenging thing. You know, that's a challenge to perceptions, and it's siloed thinking. But there's also from that, because before this live as well earlier, I was looking through all the different individual examples of feedback that we've got that are about people and teams. And another common one was that we're not recognised in the wider business. You know, that we're not appreciated for what we do. You know, there's so many examples where I've had to do this visual of a location that's enshrouded in mist. You know, and then on the other side of it, there's all these other departments and all these other teams and the senior leadership, and that came up so often that, you know, whether that is literally true or not, I don't know. But the important thing was that's how people felt, and that's what they saw around them. That that they weren't being seen, they weren't being appreciated by other areas in the business, by senior leadership. So now, if the senior leadership knew that, would they be kind of hurt, upset, question themselves? What are we doing wrong? You know, because like you talk about a lot and you write about a lot. No one sets out to do a bad day's work. No, well, some people do, obviously, but in the main, people want to come to work to do a good job, and people who are in leadership positions want to do a good job of leadership. And the best leaders, and it's surprisingly, it's a common thing that leaders spend a lot of time on continuous improvement, looking at themselves, you know, looking in the mirror, saying, what can I do differently? What can I do better? You know, and perhaps that doesn't get appreciated enough. You know, that so that could, so that is like a culture communication thing, you know, and it's something that leaders, I think, can preempt. You know, is this happening in my organisation? What can I do about that? So
yeah, quite a few things there. What you just spoke about that I think would be worth just dipping into. So first, I've just written. As you know, I'm writing a book called Teams of People, which I guess is appropriate for this conversation. But I had a little reflection day before yesterday, I think it was, that there was something missing from the book. So I wrote a chapter yesterday about pi, so PIE, and this model was originally created or to define. I can't remember the guy's name who created. So it's not one of my models. It's some fella created this to define career success, and career success is defined by the P. 10% of it is down to performance. 30% of it is down to the I, which is image. So what do people think of you, and what words would they use to describe you, and all of that stuff. And then 60% of it is down to exposure. And so the performance part of it a lot of people, a lot of teams think that if they just do a really good job, they'll be recognised. But they've got to also have the right image, and I guess from a team perspective, that's the branding of the team, that's the strap line of the team. It's the how do they turn up and show up in different meetings? How do the different people in the team turn up and show up at other people's meetings and things? And then how many other people know of them? So how exposed are they to the rest of
Yeah,
the business? And I think we can't just cross our fingers and hope that people recognize us doing a good job, because that doesn't happen. We've got to also um, help people see the job that we're doing, not in a way to brag and to boast and go, hey, look at me, and all of this stuff, but from a perspective of how you're contributing and helping the business achieve the destination and their goal. So yeah, so I think this pie thing, like for teams and for people, is really important perspective to think about. Like only 10% of career success is down to, or team success is down to the performance. The rest
yeah,
of it is a branding and a marketing exercise. So the image and the exposure. What do people say about you, and how many people know about you? Um, and so that's the first thing. In fact, actually, any thoughts on on
just
on that?
that recognition came up a lot. Recognition for um, just for achievement, but just for doing people doing the jobs well. There's nothing wrong, but and the absence of it could be really damaging. Really
Mm,
dispiriting.
yeah,
Especially if people were, in order to do a good job, were having to overcome all the other stuff that we talk about. The
yeah,
firefighting and the 10 different systems that don't talk to each other properly, and the nightmare of running reports, and all the other stuff that people talk about. Despite all that, I was still able to achieve this. Now what? Nothing. Right. So
mm,
whereas if it's like, now what? Brilliant, well done, recognition, not just as a one-off, but as a embedded in the culture. You know
yeah.
that if there's a big problem at the moment, which I read about, disengagement in the workforce increasing. Don't take much just to say well done, does it?
No, no, it doesn't. It doesn't. And I think there's it's a two-way thing there. It's like the leaders have got to get out more and to see great work happening, in order to be able to recognize. So a lot of leaders need to get out and just see the work taking place and meeting people, connecting with people, and understanding from their perspective on a more regular basis. But then also the people in the teams have got to become better at at talking about the great work that they do as well. Um, because what I see a lot of teams doing is, I'm going to use the blame word, but blaming everybody else for them not being recognised. But my challenge to them would be, what are you doing to help yourself be recognised,
Mm,
as well? So I do think it's two-way. I think leaders have got to absolutely get out more, go and see the stuff happening more, start recognizing and rewarding the smaller things rather than just waiting for the big project deliveries and all of that stuff. They've got to get out and see more. But then teams have also got to be better at communicating about the amazing work that they're doing. Um, they've got to start shouting about it more, as well, I think.
yeah, I think so. And also, I mean, if we do a live where we're talking specifically about the theme of leadership and strategy, and if you want to talk more about the leaders, I've been thinking about that recently, about well, there are different levels of leadership, and perceptions from those levels vary widely, and also of those levels. That's something that we've talked about, that immediate leadership within teams
Yeah.
um, is generally, from what we've seen, the feedback we've got, perceived really positively. And I read something about that recently, which I questioned, saying that how many people leave their jobs because they don't get on with their team leaders, or bad bosses and toxic stuff. And a lot of it's just like memes and clickbait, and what we've seen is that tends not to be the case anyway. That generally the teams in the organisations that we've done work with have a good, strong bond with their immediate team leadership, and then perhaps with the leadership around that, and it's like a sort of widening circle where the relationship gets weaker the further it goes towards the higher leadership. And it depends on the size of the organisation as well. If you're talking about like somewhere that's got 10 different sites in 20 countries, you know, who's the leader of that? Are you ever going to meet them? You know.
Yeah.
So I think that's worth exploring, different perceptions around the different levels of leadership. But across the board, there was an issue of visibility and perceived not listening and not caring, which we also know from speaking with the leadership is not the case. You know, they do care and they do want to listen, but they've got like the amount of stuff on people's backs that they have to carry every day makes just all the extra stuff that they would love to do either difficult or sometimes just flat out impossible. Which is all about communication and just understanding what's it like in that person's world, what's it like sitting in their chair.
Yeah. So should the next time we talk, we'll double down on leadership and strategy, if you like, as a.
We could do that. There's
as
no
the next,
particular
as the
order
next
to
topic.
them, is there? It's just,
No. No, but I think that would be a natural flow based on the conversation that we've had today. So maybe next week, if you're available, we'll do that. And
make myself
and I guess this people and teams thing. When you were talking before, you mentioned the word silos, as well, and I think these start. And I guess this is another tie, and I guess demonstrates the connectedness or the interconnectedness of all of the themes that we've got. These typically start in the boardroom, where different leaders will just like it. Does a leadership team, does a board have to be a team? Do they need to be a team for the business to succeed? And some of them don't think of themselves as teams, and so what that does, that creates the sales director to just focus on sales, finance, just focus on that. So then those silos then manifest away through the organization, because that's how it's being led from the front. So silos typically start in the boardroom.
so that cascades down. So, I mean, I'm seeing that visually, you know, where it cascades down through the organisations, that particular part of the organisation.
Yes, so, because the most senior people are only bothered about, or typically in this example, only really focused on their directorate, and so then the questions they ask and all of that will be just purely focused on that. So then that's where the silos come in, and we get different teams and groups clashing. And this is where the point that you made earlier on is about just getting people to talk is I guess the most important thing. But if you can get them to talk, if they've once they've connected on where they're trying to get to, then it'll be a meaningful and positive conversation. If they're not connected and aligning where they need to get to, and that might be the first conversation you have. Where are we trying to get to as a team, as an organisation, as a business, and then get everybody in the room to connect there, and then you can get them to explore how they are not helping each other, or how they are helping each other, what they need from each other more, and all of that stuff. But it is about, we need to be better at conversations, don't we?
I think that's it across the board, and I see so much. There seems to be a lot of anxiety out there about the kind of the fast-paced nature of change. You know that I mean, in a few years' time, AI is going to be like unrecognizable to what it is even now. You know, and the way it's being used, and people talking about introducing new digital infrastructures, and it can just be so overwhelming, you know, intimidating. And for people who feel that they've got to learn all this stuff, and I'm going to spend ages learning this new skill, and by the time I finish learning it, it's already obsolete, and it's just, you can't keep up with that pace of change. And it's so much of what I see is just about basics that's nothing to do with the tech, and it's nothing to do with like cultural trends and changes. It's about not losing sight, getting more and more grounded in the those basics. That's why sometimes it feels like the way I talk about these things is too simple.
Yeah.
It's just sitting next to someone and saying, "What's pissing me off today?" Or here's this change that's happening. Here's why it needs to happen. Here's the difference it's going to make to you when you go back to your desk, and when you carry it, or when you go back to your building site or factory floor or wherever it might be, when you're sitting in the canteen,
Yeah.
So, which I know that you're passionate about as well, that human connection and understanding, that it doesn't matter if it's 2025 or 1825, it hasn't changed, it hasn't gone anywhere. And I think that gets lost, and maybe it is a simplistic thing to say, maybe it's even naive, but I think it makes the difference between multi-million-pound projects failing or succeeding. So there's nothing naive about that. Just ask the shareholders,
Yeah, absolutely. This, I mean, it does sound simple. Like if the key message that we're talking about today could come out of this one is that it's good to talk. People need to talk better. Like if you think about everybody's days now, the reason why, so everybody says that they're really busy. They may be going back-to-back meetings all of the time. The email inbox is just getting crashed because people are just trying to do a good job, but they may be bombing everybody else in terms of with the emails, copying everybody into everything. But then it's like that. I've got an image in my head. It's like it's just this mist and this fog over us. All of the workload is just here, and
Yeah.
which removes the time for us to have meaningful conversations about the things that actually matter. And until we take a pause and a step back to critically look at why are we here, where are we going, where are we now, and what do we need to talk about to help us get there, then we're not going to get better. We're not going to get better.
No. And it reminds me of like when we first started doing the big picture project, and you looked at all those different bits of feedback and summarized them into bullet points. And we've got a couple here that's relevant to what you just said, which is, people and teams, what have people said they want to lose? So poor communication across teams, including ignored emails and inconsistent responses, working in isolation with a lack of coaching and support for new members, and toxic behaviours such as blame culture, micromanagement, and inverted commas, not my job attitude. So all those things, if you look at the root of them, it's all it's communication and connection. It's like all roads lead back to connection.
Yes.
And communication, which again is a visual. It's just like, what problem have you got? Trace it back. Oh, it's a connection problem. It's a communication problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's because we're dealing with people, so people need to have clarity of understanding of what they need to do. And I can't remember whether I spoke to you about this last week or the week before, but I remember go and do stop me if I'm duplicating a conversation. But I went into an engineering firm a few years ago, and they'd done an engagement survey, and the overriding theme that came out for it in terms of the opportunity for improvement was communication. And the MD had introduced like town hall meetings or monthly business updates to the organisation. But when I actually went around and spoke to people, that wasn't what they needed, and that's not what they meant by communication. It was all about the right message at the right time to help them do the right thing. So it was like the admin team being notified when a part had been taken from the warehouse so they could reorder some stuff. It was they needed to know that. They needed the engineers to talk to them about the things that they'd been taking. That's what they meant by communication. And this is why it's really important to understand the lens and what everybody is seeing, hearing when we're using these words. So communication typically is about, have I got the right message, the right information to do what I need to do right now? And it's not always about business updates and things like that, which is often a typical go-to.
It's kind of ironic, isn't it? Get it? Miscommunication about the need for communication.
It is, yeah. I guess it just come down to like how we started this conversation today, was that words mean different things to different people, and even communication. And we need to align on our definitions because we've got different upbringings, different educations, and so what comes first, people or teams? It's clarity for people first, I think. Clarity on where the team needs to get to, and all of that, and understanding of where we are, where we're going to get to, which is really important. And you help bring that clarity.
Well, I hope so. Yeah, yeah. I'd agree with that. Clarity for people. Everyone just likes to know where they stand.
Yeah,
And that is what I try and get across to people. Is it's showing people their own input of what they've said, what they've expressed, and it just occurs to me as well that I wonder if, when we talk about another word that phrase that gets used a lot, psychological safety, but just having places where people feel that they can be honest about what they really think, what they really feel. If they do that, and then what they've said is reflected back to them visually as something that is used as part of the resources and the tools for the changes that they're going through, then that just embeds it further. It was safe for me to say that because there it is up on the wall, and here we are talking about it. So there's no one thing that makes a change. It's just that all these positive bits of a toolkit kind of contribute to that. And I do. I mean, I said before about simplicity. I mean, I think simplicity is actually a difficult thing to achieve. That just for someone to feel seen and heard and understood, and to prove that that's happened, I think is a very powerful thing.
Yeah.
I connected with someone recently on LinkedIn and downloaded something they were offering that was a list of different change models. Now, I'd got as far as studying maybe, I don't know, 12 to 15 different change models, and that was complicated enough. And this thing listed 60 of them, going back to, I don't know, a long time since when people first started putting change models together and calling them that. 60 different change models, including all the main ones, like ADKAR and Kotter and change curves and all that stuff. And I was just reading through them, and after a while it's just started to started to get a bit blurry and losing the will to live, and I just I did try illustrating some of them a while ago, the ones that I learned, and it's just, I know that you need the models, and you use models yourself, and they work. But like you talk about, the tools and the methodologies are there to support the connection and the people. They're not the most important thing. They're a framework that can help you. But when they become the end in itself, or they become even worse, a substitute for stuff that should be there, they're just words and diagrams on paper. They're not going to make any difference.
No, absolutely, yeah. Like the majority of tools or frameworks are just a series of questions to help people understand where they are, where they want to be, and how they're going to get there. That's typically what change or transition is all about. It's about, I guess, the internal journey of each individual person, and how they feel, and it's the external journey, transformation of the environment or the thing, the whatever the change is for. And we just need to understand both of those things: the internal journey of a person, thoughts and feelings, and then the external journey of the solution that we're putting in place.
And I really like the you were talking last week about somewhere that an organisation that you've just been to that seemed to, from your time there and from your first impressions, just showed that there's something different about this place. This is good, you know.
Yep.
That it was evident everywhere you looked that all this stuff that people say they want to have, and all these aspirations that a lot of people have that they want to get to, this was somewhere that actually embodied it, you know. And it was just, I think that's really powerful, that these things aren't theory, they're practice, they're practical. This is where it can happen. You can have that.
Yes. Yeah, and I think that's the really important point here, is that, so the experience that I went through in that organisation was really powerful, because they thought about the whole experience of the people working there. So they have a gym with different classes that you can go to on your breaks or at lunch or before and after. So they set the timetable up based on work pattern. They have as a visitor into the organisation, the entry to the campus was amazing. And when I got my badge, I had emailed to me straight away a QR code that I had to go over to one of the coffee shops that they had there, and I got a free cup of coffee whilst I was waiting for the person that was coming. So they thought about everything from a people perspective, and the different people that they needed to serve. So whether it was the employees, whether it was the visitors, they had 10 restaurants on site doing different things. Phenomenal.
It's like a high-end hotel, the way it's being run, that attention to detail, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's, you know,
Absolutely.
and it's a business, it's a big, successful organisation.
Yes.
So that's probably, if we had to do examples of like best and worst, you know, that would be one of the best. That's just like this is where it's all working, you know, because everything that you experienced there and the work you did with people, that couldn't have happened without that real cultural change, that, you know, everything we talk about, that's just a room full of a team of people being listened to.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And
You know,
trying
how many
to tailor.
conversations led to that environment?
Correct, yeah. How much have they understood the experience that's required? But one thing that they also did is they connected the people to the end product. So in the in where a lot of the restaurants were, there was a new product. I'll talk about it like this. But there was a new product that was on display that people who work in there could go and interact with, and there's a few games set up about it as well, so that they were getting people were being taken and understanding the experience further. So they were being more invested in the end product, the reason why they turn up every single day. They ran quizzes and competitions as well, where you could win stuff linked to the new product. So they've just thought about it from a people perspective. And I think, and if you want teams to work together, then you have to paint that picture of why are we here? So they'd done that because they had the products that people could play with and see and experience and contribute to, so that everybody knew why they were there, as well. And I think it's that connectedness it's that old the story of the US president and visiting NASA and asking the cleaner, "What do you do?"
Yeah.
And I helped put man on the moon. It's that kind of story. It's how do we help people feel connected to our purpose, each other, the leader, everything.
And and did you, before you went, did you have any idea what to expect?
No, no, I just thought it was going to be a building that I was going to be going to, but I didn't realise it would be a campus with an experience. So as soon as you go through the gates, you begin that experience. Um, so no, I just thought it was just going to be like an ordinary like building just outside of London. So no,
Yeah, amazing,
so
amazing.
it far surpassed my expectations. And the fact that we're talking about it now, and I think when we talk about PI, which we spoke about before, performance, image, and exposure, what they've done is they've created a really positive image and experience that I am now we've spoken about, and so
Mm.
we've had a positive experience. So the exposure is right as well. So
Yeah.
they're exposing themselves more through positive word of mouth.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it makes such a difference actually being on premises with people and actually interacting with them. I know that when I went to visit a client a while ago, where the environment wasn't ideal and there were a lot of issues that people had to deal with, which is why they had all the coaching going on. But one thing I got from that was that a there was something that the team of coaches had really helped embed and facilitate, was that there's people weren't afraid to talk. People were very open and, despite all the problems, still optimistic about the changes that were happening. And that was it. So that's, I suppose, where I see all the stuff that we talk about of, you know, if there's one consistent thing in successful change, it's connecting people at a gut level, you know, right from the start, the people who are going to be impacted. Um,
Yeah,
and I saw that happening. So, you know, there are loads of stuff going wrong, and big changes, lots of uncertainty ahead, but people talking openly about it and being. I think what I saw was that the belief in where they were going. You know, there wasn't.
yeah,
You know, and I was a stranger to them. You know, they could have just like ignored me.
yeah. Yeah. Just quickly again, conscious of the time.
Right.
Laura has put in the comments that people need to listen better, not just talk. What do you think about
Yeah. Is that at me, Laura?
that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, that's, you know, there's the whole thing of just, are you listening to understand or listening just to wait your turn to talk next? Um,
yeah,
and you know, the best coaches I've worked with just ask a couple of very wide open questions and sit back,
yeah.
and are
I
very attentive to the answer. You know
yes.
yourself when someone's been really listening to you. And sorry, you can't, but
No, I'm just listening to you, G.
yeah, go on.
No, no, honestly, so I think that like there's a couple of points in this, and this might be another conversation that that I absolutely believe that we've got two ears and one mouth, haven't we? So we need to listen far more than we speak, and exactly like you say, um, people listen but don't truly listen. Like there's a lot of listening that goes on where people might on the outside look like they're listening, but on the inside they're silent on the outside, but they're not silent in here. Whilst people are speaking, they might be formulating the next question, or they might be thinking about an example or a thought that's been sparked by the person. So you're not actually listening. And I think it's all about being silent, but not just silent here, silent in here, but it can also be silent with your body language. as well, but it depends upon the intent of the interaction. So if you're building connection, what you typically do is you'll mirror the other person, you'll nod, you'll smile, and you might give some positive cues that's just because what you want to do is you want to build connection with people, build rapport. So you'll mirror their body language. But when you're coaching, if your intent is to coach in an interaction, then your body language, you shouldn't really be nodding or because you're giving visible cues that you're enjoying or liking what they're saying, so that you're biasing what they're going to do next. So again, this silence and this listening is key, but it comes down to the intent of the interaction. So silence for me is silent body language when coaching, silent body language, silent ear, and silent in ear. And different people have different, I guess, levels of ability to be silent.
Yeah, that's because you're always like making yourself neutral, aren't you? Like putting yourself out of the way to have as little influence as possible over what's being said, so that you can accurately respond to it.
Yes, in a coaching interaction, but in a rapport building interaction, it's different.
Totally different.
Yeah, and it reminds me of I read a book by Charles Duhigg called Super Communicators, and in that he said in every interaction you typically want one of three things. So you might turn up to either be heard, be hugged, or be helped, and the other person will be turning up either to be heard, be hugged, or to be helped. And if these aren't in alignment, so like my default is to coach, and I've had like a number of conversations where some people have just wanted to be heard, but I've tried to help them, but they don't want any help. They just want to be listened to. And so we've got to understand how people are turning up into each interaction, what their intent is, what they need from it. Do they want to be heard? Do they want to be helped? Do they want to be hugged? Emotional support. And then we've got to understand from their perspective, and they've got to understand from our perspective. And this is why connection is key and clarity is key.
That's one of the things that attracted me to working with coaches. And what I love about coaching is that idea that, you know, you're not giving answers, you're not therapying, you're creating that space, that observed space for people to work through things on their own, and trusting that they can do that, and guiding them towards what they said they wanted when they drift away from it, you know.
Yes.
And so I suppose in a way I'm trying to match that stance with the visuals work, you know, that it's reflecting people's kind of inner worlds back to them in a way that helps them make sense of it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So, G, we've nearly run for the full hour
We have.
again. Time has got, so I guess, what comes first? People or teams?
Chickens.
Ha!
I think clarity, like I'd agree with what you said, clarity for people.
Yeah.
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 People first.
Yeah, no, I'm absolutely with you. Clarity and connection for people, and then you can build a team around the people. When you've got clarity and connected understanding of where we are, where we want to be, and then you can move forward. Which comes out back to those 4 C's again. So connect, converse, collaborate, and celebrate. And typically we try to push people into teams to collaborate without taking the time, finding the right spaces to connect and converse meaningfully first. So yeah, for me, it's people as well.
And I'll make something about that in time for the next session around the 4 C's and about how they have to be in that order in order to work.
Yeah, amazing. Amazing. So there is going to be another session.
Yeah. We've got to talk about leadership and strategy and all that.
We do indeed. We do indeed.
Yeah.
So
I'll
same time next week.
Yeah, I'll get myself a backdrop of sitting outside a cafe in Paris, unless I actually
Oui,
make it
oui.
there over the next week. But
Yeah, it would be lovely. It would be lovely. Apparently, the weather's meant to be nice next week as well. Yeah, that'll be good. We shall meet
or I'll
again,
just go and sit in
same
the garden.
time. Yeah, yeah, same time, same channel. But we're talking leadership and strategy. This one has been about people and teams. Next week, leadership and strategy, and we will dive into that using the insights from the 5,000 Voices, 10 organisations, and then yeah, we'll just weave in and out of that and see where the conversation takes us. But G,
Sounds
thank you.
good. Sounds good. Cheers, Lee.
Have a lovely weekend.
And you.
There we go. How was that for you?